You're welcome back, and that was a wonderful conversation Cynthia had with our artist for the day on Good Morning Abuja. And now let's move on to some would say the main conversation for the day. And we're elated to have this particular conversation because it has to do with power. And we know power generation is something that is very critical to the development of any serious economy. I added serious for a particular reason. And we know the federal government of Nigeria has done or has been doing a lot of stuff, creating special interventions to ensure that the generation of power is constant and we can actually get to even transmit this power beyond our recent capacity. So, talking about power generation and the feat that Nigeria just achieved last week, you're wondering what feat it is. Don't worry, we'll be telling you on Good Morning Abuja today. So, talking about this and more, we have the SA to the Minister of Power, and he is also the coordinator of 5 million solar home systems. Is the SA Abba Aliyu. Welcome, great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And before I start the conversation, I'm super excited when I see young men do amazing things in politics and they're doing well. And I must commend you for all you've been doing, being the special advisor to the Minister of Power.
Thank you very much.
So now let's get to the conversation for the day. We know power is critical to any economy. And recently, we must actually give it to the government that we've seen better power supply. For those who are complaining that they see little or no power, now you can at least be happy that you can see at least more than 6 hours of power every day, and it is really commendable. But before we start to talk about other aspects of power, let's know how it has been being a young man, the SA to the minister. How has it been juggling politics, juggling power? I know you must have received a lot of criticisms.
No, absolutely. The power sector in Nigeria is one of the most challenging sector, and people are somehow frustrated with the output of the sector, and people want to see results as quickly as possible. And the sector by nature is not the sector where you instantly see the outcome of a project. If you start a project, most of them take a minimum of 2 years, 3 years before the results start coming out. So basically, I'm more or less a technocrat. I'm working with the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC as a general manager, then seconded to support the office of the Honorable Minister of Power as his SA on policy. So it's a terrain that I have been working for the past 8 years. Wow. So it's something that I live and breathe the power sector.
Wow, you live and breathe power. Okay, I hope you generate a lot of power to power NTA. So quickly, let's talk about an achievement which the power sector achieved just last week. We know there have been this dwindling capacity. A lot of people are worried about the capacity of power that our system can generate. Just last week, we achieved an amazing feat that has gotten a lot of people talking, and even the Minister of Power is excited about this one, that we were able to generate 5,000 capacity. So now, how did this happen, and how did we achieve this feat in just a short time?
Okay, as a context, the power sector is in different segments. We have the generation segment, we have the transmission and the distribution. Now, what we achieved last week was the highest peak of transmission of 5,520 megawatts that was achieved, specifically on the 6th of January. And that was the highest ever we have recorded. And as a context, it was within this government that we keep breaking the record of the peak that was ever generated within the sector. Before then, there was the peak of 5,420 that we achieved on the 5th of September, and we broke that record again. We achieved 5,520 on the 30th of October last year, and then on the 6th of January, now we achieved the 5,552 highest peak capacity. So in the sector, we have a capacity of about 13,000 generation capacity. But what we can generate is subject to the capacity of the transmission and the distribution, because you can't generate what cannot be transmitted or distributed. So the efforts that have been done at the transmission company of Nigeria they are implementing a program called Transmission Rehabilitation and Expansion Program, whereby various high-cost transmission projects are being executed purposely to expand and enhance the capacity of the transmission system to be able to transmit and win more energy to the distribution company of Nigeria. So that was what we achieved last week. Yes, it's one of the things that we keep on doing, and I assure you that before the end of this government will keep going. The target is for us to achieve 7,000 before the end of this year.
Wow, really amazing. So quickly, let me talk about this. For an average Nigerian who have been listening to us talking about the peak generation, the peak capacity that we have generated, from I as a person, I will understand. I know what it means to transmit 5,552 capacity. To an average Nigerian, what does this capacity loosely translate to? What does it mean to them? Does it mean they'll see more power than before? Does it mean that there are more equipment that will come? What does this loosely translate to?
Yeah, absolutely. You just said it right. The higher the quantum of the energy we generate and transmit and distribute, the more the number of hours that the Nigeria will see. So let me give you a typical example. South Africa, for example, with a population of between an average of, let's say, 50 million people, they have the capacity and they are generating close to 40,000 megawatts. Now, if you translate it in Nigerian context with an estimated population of 200, right? You can now see the quantum of electricity we need for us to be an industrial nation, as you rightly said in your introduction, that for a country that wants to boost its economy, you need energy, you need that electricity to be able to propel industries to come up. Now, and what we are doing is to enhance our infrastructure. The generation has been privatized. It's fully owned by the private sector. So we have the thermal, which uses gas in generation, and we have the hydros, which uses water in generation. So we created an avenue whereby private individuals with the acumen and the business incentives can come and invest to generate the electricity. For transmission, it's still a government-owned component, and that is why the government is injecting a lot of money to make sure that the transmission has the capacity to absorb, to transmit and win all the available generation capacity, which now stands at about 30,000 if the gas is available. So that is why we are now working on the transmission, and the new MD of the transmission company is doing all it can in the implementation of the transmission rehabilitation program.
Okay, you just mentioned that the government is injecting, billions of naira, a lot of funds to ensure generation, especially power, is stable in the country. So now let's talk about the interventions, in this sector. What are those interventions that you think we should know about that the government has actually done?
Okay, I think the basic one is the Presidential Power Initiative, which was conceived by the Mr. President himself. It came out as a result of a visit that the Mr. President visited Germany and had a discussion with the German Chancellor. And we entered into a government-to-government agreement whereby the government of Germany will support Nigeria by providing guarantee to consortium of German banks, who will now in turn provide funding that will be used for the enhancement of the infrastructure. This Presidential Power Initiative is the biggest intervention in the entire electricity value chain ever in the history of Nigeria, and it is designed to enhance even the generation, enhance the transmission, and enhance the distribution segment of it. Not only that, there is also even a provision for a metering database system that will help in making sure that the electricity that is being sold is collected. So that is one intervention that we are talking about. The second intervention, which as you also introduced me as the coordinator, is that of the provision of the 5 million solar home system. So as the government is also intervening and enhancing the on-grid electricity, it's also conscious and aware that there are a number of Nigerians that are either not provided with electricity completely, or they are underserved. They are getting less than the 6 hours, for example, in a day. So the government now did an economic analysis and realized that such kind of people, rather than to say that, okay, I have to build an injection substation, distribution substation to provide them, it is economically cheaper to provide them with off-grid electricity,
which is solar
exactly, panels, exactly. And that was why, under the economic sustainability program that the Mr. President signed last year, there is an initiative to provide 5 million solar homes. And that 5 million solar home is to provide electricity to 25 million Nigerians, and also create 250,000 direct jobs. So that's another initiative that is being done. Apart from that, there is also an initiative of completing the legacy project. So the minister put it as one of his policy focus to ensure the completion of legacy generation projects that had already been started. If you remember, I told you that our generation capacity is 13,000, and we need to up it if we compare with the likes of South Africa. So that is why he said that all those legacy projects, Mambila, which is about 3,000 megawatts, Zingeru about 700 megawatts, Kashumbila 40 megawatts, a project in Kaduna which is about 240, another one in Abba about 500. So it's all working towards that, so that we will have additional, at least between 2,000 to 3,000 additional capacity to that.
This is really amazing. Seeing all the interventions that the government is putting in place to ensure that we have steady solar, not only solar but power in the country, is really amazing. We'll need to go, but quickly before we go, just give me this in just a few words. For the 5 million solar homes that the government has actually put in place, who are those to benefit? And for those who are to benefit, how can they benefit? Because that's the one that's important as well.
Excellent. So those, like I mentioned earlier, it's designed specifically to provide those that are not connected with electricity completely.
Those in the rural areas,
exactly, and those that are connected but they are getting far, they are underserved.
Okay.
So those are the targeted.
So how can they connect to it? Because it's one thing to know about the 5 million home initiative project, and another thing to be a part of it. How can they access this, and how cheap is it?
Okay, so the project, it's been funded by Central Bank.
Okay.
Now, one of the main things that makes such kind of solar home system expensive is because of cost of funding.
Okay.
As an investor, I need to get funding with interest, and I have to make my own markup for me to sell, to buy this and sell to you. But CBN now provided a concessionary funding to investors. So that cost of funding is being breached by Central Bank.
Okay.
And now these individuals, investors that will source this funding, cheap funding from Central Bank, will now come and work with the Rural Electrification Agency that has the mandate of providing off-grid electricity in the country.
Okay.
And now the agency had already done a geomapping of the entire areas of where these individuals are, the rural areas and the underserved. They have an idea of how the economic activities and things like that. So they are the ones to provide such kind of direction on where this will be installed. Exactly.
Wow, really amazing. Thank you so much. We'll be talking to the Special Advisor on Policy to the Minister of Power, and he's also the coordinator of the 5 million solar home system, Abba, Aliyu. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful conversation. I wish we had more time to talk about this, because power generation is very important.
Thank you very much for having me.